welcome everybody to the Save the Music, Save the Venues. My name's Garth. We're here at EnterTalk Media Studios, brought to you by Queen Bees. So excited about the things that are going on this summer. We'd really like to thank Artesia for providing the headphones and the microphones. And remember, if you watch next Wednesday night at entertalkmedia.com/live-stream, you get to win one of these microphones, which is really, really cool. So definitely go to that, entertalkmedia.com, and apply to win a microphone from Artesia. We would really, really appreciate that. And I'm super stoked to let everybody know that we have an amazing, amazing poet, artist, person, spirit, just an amazing person on the show today. His name is the Rudy Francisco. He has toured all over the world with his poetry. He's a publisher. He's an amazing poetry slam. How could I explain it? He does his own poetry slam at Queen Bees and has been doing it for many, many years. And so we're glad to have him tonight. So, Rudy, are you there, my brother?
I'm here. Yo, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, man, we are blessed to have you here. Thank you so, so much. We really appreciate you.
Oh, it's no problem. It's no problem. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's just get into it, man. How you doing? How you getting through the summer? You getting through it okay?
Yeah. I've been doing okay. Spending a lot of time at home, hanging out with family a lot,
Right.
Which is also, it's been a huge blessing just because I spent so much time traveling during the academic year that, I'm used to not going very often. But since traveling is a possibility right now, it's really giving me some time to be around family. It's giving me a lot of time to sit down and write. There's a lot of projects that I had been sort of putting off to the side. And now that I have pretty much all day, every day, I've been getting a lot of work done as well. So yeah, it's been good. I can't complain too much.
Okay, good, man, good. I know that's one blessing out of this whole situation is we've been spending more time with family. So,
Yeah.
and hopefully close friends.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
Yeah, just trying to use the time wisely.
Yes, sir. So have you been writing a lot?
I have been writing. I wouldn't say I've been writing a lot, but I have been writing, and just because since I have so much time, sometimes it's hard to be like, okay, well, on this particular day and time, I'm gonna do some writing. I've just been kind of letting it come and go.
Okay.
So I haven't been as productive as I wanted to be, but still
Right.
fairly productive. The new book is actually scheduled to be out in December.
Beautiful.
So I've been working on that and just sent in the final edits. So yeah, it looks like it's pretty much ready to go.
And how many books is this? Is this your second one?
Yeah, it's the second one. So I've done chat books, which are really small books that have less than 25 poems. But Helium, the one that I released 2 years ago, was actually my first full length book, and then this next one that comes out in December, that'll be my second.
Okay, beautiful. Can you tell us the name of it?
Oh, it's called I'll Fly Away. And so basically, I'll Fly Away is the title of a song that me, my father, and my mother all like, but we all like different versions of it. I like the version that's on Kanye West's album. My mother, she likes the version that's by Patsy Cline. My father likes the version by Jim Reeves. And it's a gospel hymn, and it's all about how no matter how bad things are, things are going to get better.
Okay.
And also what it's also talking about is that this isn't our only life, after this there is something else. So yeah, that's been a theme throughout most of my books, right? My chat books were called No Gravity. The first full length book was called Helium. It's all about sort of defying your limitations. So yeah, I'm super proud and super excited about this next one.
Man, you must be. Why don't we
Yeah.
rewind a little bit and talk about little Rudy? Like where like
Yeah.
when did you start like wanting to write poetry and
Uh-huh.
like where
Uh-huh.
did that all come from?
So my brother was an MC,
Oh
right?
wow.
And yeah, so I wanted to do everything that he did.
Right.
So initially I started writing raps, but like I couldn't figure out how to like stay on beat,
Okay.
and,
Okay.
and with raps like you have to write in a like a 16 bar format, right?
Sure.
And I just really couldn't figure out how to do it. And I remember being in high school much later on, and we were given an assignment to write a poem, and the teacher was like, "Yeah, it doesn't have to be any sort of like structure. You don't have to follow any sort of like pentameter. You can just write." And that was like the first time like I actually like sat down and wrote a poem, and I just fell in love with like the process of it. So like young me wanted to be a rapper. I was like super involved with basketball. Like I would play basketball pretty much like every day, sometimes twice a day on the weekends.
Wow.
Yeah, like my family is from Belize.
Oh
So
wow. That's right.
so like that was also a huge influence on me as a kid, because
Mhm.
like there were certain like cultural customs that we would do. It's like that were just like normal to me, but weren't necessarily like things that like my friends did.
Right.
And it was just a really interesting way to like sort of navigate my blackness, right? Like
Right.
I was very aware of my blackness very early on, because like my older brother would talk to me about it even when I was like really young. But like adding like this sort of other cultural dynamic, like my parents being from Belize, it was just a very fascinating thing, because like it was like, yeah, like I'm from here, but I'm also like not,
Right. Right.
because like there were certain things that I just didn't know. Like I remember like seeing the electric slide for the first time, and I was like
That's funny.
12, you know what I mean? And I had no idea what was happening. I was like, how do they all know this dance? Like, did
Right.
they practice this? You know what I mean? So like there were like so many things like culturally speaking that I just wasn't really aware of, because like my
uh,
parents weren't from here. But also since I just look like I'm African American, people just
right.
assumed that I knew certain things. So it was
Right.
like a very fascinating thing to navigate. And it's something that
Wow.
I think about even like to this day, about like my own blackness, about how like my blackness is also, it's also has a very international influence.
Yes, sir.
And I think that was just a very fascinating thing to navigate when I was younger, like not fully like understanding what was happening, but knew that something was happening.
Right.
And it really was like something that really came to head when I went to Belize. I had gone to Belize for the first time when I was about 7,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, it was such a great experience,
I
because
bet.
like there was just so much that I didn't really know about my culture that I
Mm.
learned that summer, and I spent the whole summer there.
Okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
like my
That's a
childhood,
blessing.
my childhood was like just very fascinating in a lot of ways. Me navigating my blackness, me experimenting with art, and like
Mm.
figuring out how to like put words together, and then also just sort of like understanding, you know, just trying to understand myself. I
Right.
think it's a very fascinating, interesting process when I look back on it.
I bet, man. I mean, I know that Belize is one of the, well, is the only Latin American country that speaks English, right? Which is,
Yeah, 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 because
right.
we were colonized by the British.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So before it
Right.
was before it was Belize, it was actually British Honduras,
Right.
and it hasn't been Belize for very long. I'm like during my mother's lifetime, it went from British Honduras to Belize.
Oh, wow.
So she actually remembers when it wasn't even called Belize.
Right.
So
Right.
so yeah, so like that's also very fascinating, just because like Belize has a rich history.
Totally.
But it wasn't always called Belize, like it was
No.
called British Honduras at one point in time. And also before that, it was even a territory of, why can I think of the country? Guatemala. Yeah, it was a part
Oh,
of
wow.
Guatemala.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, I didn't know you were Belizean until later either, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you have a different swagger that I really respect and appreciate.
Well,
And
thank
you always hold, of course, man, you always hold
you.
yourself very professional. And
Uh-huh.
you throw amazing events at Queen Bees. How many years have you been throwing those events at Queen Bees?
Yo, it would have been our 6 year anniversary this year,
Wow. Okay.
actually, in June.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I think that what we have to do when it's all over, we'll just throw a 6 year next year.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. This is
Right?
kind
We
of
have to throw a
a
poetry slam party at Queen Bees. Everybody's gonna be invited,
definitely,
y'all. For
definitely,
sure, man.
definitely.
And then,
Yeah, yeah.
so now that you've really been out there and been professional for what, maybe close to 10 or 15 years at this point,
Yeah, it's been a little over 10.
right? That's
Yeah,
what I thought.
yeah.
So you got to go to Europe. So how, when
Uh,
you go overseas and you go to other states, even,
uh,
how are you accepted? Are people just like, wow, blown away about the things that are flying out of your mouth? Or are they very like,
uh,
ooh ah? Or are they just so appreciative, or just kind of weirded out? I mean, what's the crowd reaction?
yeah, very appreciative.
I believe it.
Especially like when you do international shows, just
Mhm.
because spoken word is a fairly like popular art form now. Like
Right.
there are like people all over the world who are watching spoken word videos on YouTube.
Right.
So yeah, like when I do international shows, like it's really amazing because like the amount of love that they have for
Mm-hmm.
the craft, and also since like they know that they're not gonna see you all the time. Like this might
Right.
be the only time that they ever see you perform live.
Right.
So yeah, like the love is just it's amazing. Like
Cool, man.
I've done 2 shows in India, I've done
Wow.
Australia, I've
Wow.
done all over the UK, Mexico City, Canada, of course.
Wow.
And yeah, like the love that they have for the art form, it's phenomenal. And like since
Okay.
like they don't like the posts that they typically watch are usually either like from Button or like Right About Now,
Okay.
or they just post just who have like a large following, generally speaking. So yeah, so when they get a chance to see it in person,
Mhm.
they're so appreciative, and it's just so much love. and
All right.
and I,
So
I
tell
love
me. So tell me,
those.
where's your favorite place, man? What do you think you got the most love from?
Oh man, that's tough. That's tough. But if I had to say one place where I felt the most love, um, it would probably have to be Mumbai in India.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
there were I believe it was 5,000 people at this spoken word festival.
That's
It's called Spoken
great.
Fest.
Are
Yeah,
you
Spoken Fest happens
serious?
every year.
Oh man.
5,000 people all there to
Wow.
listen to poems, right? And it's
Wow.
like this outdoor. It's like Coachella almost, but like
Right.
poetry, right?
That's
And
sick.
yeah, and I had the opportunity to headline the festival in January,
Wow. Wow.
and
Congratulations, man.
man, it was so much love,
I bet.
so much. And I was just like, wow, like this is amazing, because like coming up, I never thought that I was gonna be a spoken word artist. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I didn't even know what that was for a long period of time.
Right. Right.
Um, and yeah, and like unfortunately, like a lot of like my childhood and teenage friends, like a lot of them, either like fell victim to gun violence
Mm.
or spent time in jail, and like
Mm.
like a lot of my childhood friends,
Mm-hmm.
like unfortunately, didn't really like figure out like how to how to make and I guess I don't know what the words I'm looking for, but a
Just
lot of
keep
my childhood
themselves
friends,
busy to stay out of trouble, right?
yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
really what it is, man. You were
uh,
blessed, and you had that situation where you were just
yeah,
kept
and
yourself busy writing and playing ball.
definitely, definitely, and and luckily, I had a father who also went to college,
Right,
which was not the case for most of my friends growing up,
right.
and he really was like, "You're going to college," you know what I
Good,
mean? It wasn't
good.
even an option,
It's beautiful.
and also like I got involved in sports, and there were just like so many other opportunities
Good.
that I used to sort of like somewhere to sort of like put my energy,
Are you from San
like
Diego?
yeah, yeah, born and raised.
Oh,
Yeah, I grew up in Southeast.
wow. Oh, no
Yeah,
way. Okay,
yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So that does make sense. So if you're from the Southeast, we all know around here that sometimes when we go to certain areas of San Diego,
Mhm.
the opportunities or the push to go to college maybe isn't that prevalent,
Yeah,
right? And
definitely.
so I'm from the East Bay, from the
Uh,
Oakland area, and we also weren't very pressured to go to college. It was like go get a
yeah,
job, or go learn vocational,
definitely.
and
Uh, uh,
and if you did, it was community college. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And so I'm
yeah,
with you on that. So that's a really good insight, man. And I think if
yeah,
there's any parents out there, they should take that to heart and go, hey, get your kids involved in things that keep them out of the streets. basically,
Yeah, yeah, I
right?
think that's super important. Yeah, yeah,
It really,
absolutely.
really is, man. It really, really is. So, okay, so
Yeah.
you played sports, and then
Mhm.
moving forward, you got a book coming up, which is really, really great. We're so excited about that. And then,
Mhm.
so what do you think with all this insanity that's been going on? Is this going to be your first live stream concert next week, or basically live stream platform?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Ah, cool.
I've done like a couple of like Instagram lives like with other people who sort of
Okay.
like invited me onto their platform to perform a couple poems. But yeah, but this will be like my first like real show, you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, like I'm super excited about it.
Yeah,
Like
man. Well, it's well deserved, man. It's well deserved. So let's talk about like what advice would you give like a young poet, or maybe even just a new poet? You know, because obviously
Mhm.
poetry you can be any age, right? Which is great.
Yeah, yeah,
And, and,
definitely. Yeah, there's no
and
age
what
restriction.
was you? What advice would you give to a new poet that would love to get to to get to your slam and then maybe get to be on a team or be able to just blow up internationally just like you?
Definitely. So I think my biggest piece of advice is, of course, like once the world opens back up, is to
Right.
come out and be a part of the community. You know, I think that's super important. Like just coming out, going to the open mics, because I mean, like there's the slam, but there's also this lyrical exchange, which also happens at
Right.
Queenbees. You know,
Right.
so I think that's a very good spot because since it's an open mic, I mean, there are no scores involved. You can just
Mm-mm.
go and share your work. So I think
Oh, that's
getting
great.
into the open mic scene is a really awesome way to sort of like enter into just the overall poetry scene, going there, testing your stuff out, getting comfortable, because that's what I did. Like I went to open mics way before I went to slams,
Okay.
and I
That's way
performed
smart.
a whole bunch until I felt a little more comfortable with my work, and then I was like, okay, let me see if I can actually enter into a competition and see how I can do. So my biggest piece of advice is really just to go out to the open mics and perform. Also in terms of like writing, just like write your truth. I
Right.
think sometimes we get caught up in thinking, oh well, I enjoy this particular poet, so let me try to write the same way they do.
Right.
But I think it's also important to understand that your voice is unique and it's important. So like you don't have to tell stories the way that I tell stories. You don't have to write the same way that I write. I think there's room for us all. So that's my biggest piece of advice is like go out to the
Okay.
open mics, perform, and also write your truth. I think that's super important.
Those are dope gems. I think that so let's give them an idea of how many years did you go to open mics before you went to a slam?
I probably went to open mics for like 2 to 3 years.
See, I believe it,
Yeah,
man. I believe it. It
yeah.
really takes that. And then,
Uh-huh.
you're 10,000 hours, so at this point you're probably at 15 to 20,000 yourself,
Maybe. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
which is great. And
Uh,
I think it's just any profession, no matter what it is, and I think that you're living proof, which is great, that you can take that from, hey, I thought I wanted to be this,
yeah.
and then eventually grow into being, a professional poet that's getting
Mhm.
published. And did you publish your book yourself, or did you go out and find a publisher? How would someone do that if they're already a poet and they're already doing their thing? What would you
Uh-huh.
think could take them to the next level?
Yeah, yeah. So initially with my chapbooks, I self-published through
Okay,
Kindle Direct Publishing, which is
right,
always an option, right?
yeah,
And I think like luckily, so my publisher is Button Poetry,
okay,
and basically I had known them for a really long time, just because they were part of the Minneapolis Poetry Slam,
ah,
and they would come to the national tournament, right?
okay,
So I had known a lot of them for a really long time. Eventually, they decided to start a poetry platform called Button Poetry. And
okay,
then later on, they decided to create a publishing house as well.
ah.
So when they created their publishing house, I think me and Sam Cooke, who's the founder, we were just
Sam Cooke, the
talking. And
singer, or another guy?
oh, another guy just has the
Oh, I was
same
gonna
name.
say,
Yeah, yeah,
wow.
not that Sam Cooke.
Wow, because I think Sam Cooke was the first brother to own his own publishing, if I'm not mistaken,
I
in
I
the
think
late
so.
'50s, early '60s, which is really
Yeah.
amazing, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So different Sam Cooke.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, yeah. We were having a conversation. He was like, "Yo, how would you feel about publishing?" And I was
Mhm.
like, "I don't know." I was like, "Say
Right,
more about this."
right.
Just because I've done like my little chat books, but
Okay.
I never looked at myself as a writer. I always
Uh,
looked at myself as a performer. So he was like, yeah, like I think your style works really well on the page. We think you can do really well. Yeah, let us know if you're interested. So I took a couple weeks and I was like, okay, well, let's try it out, and see what happens. And he was like, okay, so send us your manuscript. And I was like, I don't have a manuscript,
Right.
And he was like, so create a manuscript and then send it, and then like we'll work from there. And so like I put a whole bunch of poems together. Like I wrote a whole bunch of poems, and I was like, okay, well here's like all these poems that I have, and then what do we do now? And then they were like, okay, well let's figure out a way to organize these in a way that sort of tells like a narrative arc, and yeah, they just sort of walked me through the process. So yeah, like it was really just sort of it was kind of luck, like I just happened to know some people who then started a publishing house. I think with other people who don't necessarily have those resources readily available, like sending your manuscript to publishers also really works. There are a lot of publishing companies that have like chapbook contests and like book contests who are taking submissions from people who have manuscripts. So a lot of times you can send in your manuscript, they'll look at it, and then if they like it enough, like they'll decide to publish it.
Okay.
So that's but also like I said,
man. I love that.
Yeah, and also like I said initially, like, there's always independent publishing as well. So
right.
Like I know like a lot of people who started off independent and then got picked up later on. So that's also an avenue.
Kind of like a distribution deal for the book that you already put out. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that
pretty much. That's kind of how publishing companies function.
And then you also have a team, right? So that team that you have, you won the national championship, I'm sure, last year. Is that what it was?
Yeah, so it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay.
So there's a national poetry slam. So basically, like there's about 80 teams from around the country who usually they have like their finals. They have their finals usually in like March or April, and then from that time on, like they spend that time practicing and getting ready for nationals, which happens in August typically. So 2 years ago, because actually 3 years ago we went and we took second. And that year, like it was me and like a whole bunch of, it was all rookies. It was like Amin Ra, Cole Lawson, Natasha Hooper, Anita D. Yeah, right. So yeah, it was all their first years, and we spent a lot of time working. And the work that they put in was, man, it was phenomenal, right? So when we went to nationals, like we won both of our qualifiers. And I didn't even perform. Like I would just send them up to do their poems, and they were like killing it, right? And then we made final stage, and then we actually ended up losing to Baltimore that year. We took second. But that was huge because like I said, they were all rookies, and they had this like really awesome experience. And then the next year, so Javon Johnson, he had retired. He had like won 2 national titles before with Hollywood, and we have a really close relationship with the Hollywood team. So he wanted to come back and slam. Him and I are like, he's like one of my closest friends. I consider him my brother, and he was like, I'm thinking about slamming again. And I was like, say more, you know what I mean?
Bring it on.
Yeah, he was like, yo, like, how would you feel about me being on the San Diego team? And I was like, come through, you know what I mean? Exactly. So he came to a qualifier, he won the qualifier, and then he ended up making it on the team. And like I feel in a lot of ways like he is one of the big reasons that why we were able to win a championship. Of course that year it was myself, Chrissy Croft, Viet Mai, Natasha Hooper, Javon. And we all put in work, and I think that was like the hardest that we practiced. That was like, I think a lot of us were just really hungry, you know what I mean? Like we won that year, and it was so surreal.
Is that when you got on the Jimmy Fallon show? Is that when you won, they put you on the Jimmy Fallon show right away, or is that just something completely different you did on your own?
Oh yeah, that was something completely different.
Wow.
So the Jimmy Fallon show. So one of the writers for the show, he was a fan of my work, and he had been following my work for a while. And he had the idea because like they have like stand-up comedians and whatnot,
Sure.
and they were like, well, spoken word sort of has like a similar like setup, you know what I mean, where it's like it's just a mic, you know, and somebody's
Right.
talking.
That's right.
And he had pitched the idea. He was like, so what if we had a spoken word artist? And they were like, okay, like we're open to it. And then he sent them my videos, and they were like, okay, yeah, we want him on the show. So that's how that happened. And now like I have a really good relationship with them.
I bet you do, because you've been back a couple times, right?
Yeah, they've had me on the show twice, and then we were gonna
great.
do it again, but like just like the schedules and the dates didn't really match up. So hopefully at some point in time next year I'll be back on the show.
I bet I would have you back on. I'm gonna have another show and have you back on as well. I'm not Jimmy Fallon, but hey, you know what I'm saying?
yeah. Whenever you want me on the show, I'm here.
Yes, sir, for sure. So do you think being on that show even excelled you even further? Did you get to sell more books and get to do more tours after that?
Yeah. So, because like I often look at like these sort of opportunities as, they're often like sort of like stepping stones, right? Because I think some people like they think that just because they do one particular thing, that's gonna completely change their trajectory.
Right,
but I think realistically speaking, it's like where you go is sort of like a culmination of like all of the opportunities that you've had thus far, right?
Right.
So I think what the Jimmy Fallon show did for me was like, you know, it introduced me to like a new audience that may not have seen me otherwise. So it definitely increased my following. It helped out with book sales. But even after the Jimmy Fallon show, like I still had to, you know, keep writing. Like I still had to keep performing. I still had to keep working, you know? And I think that's the part of it that we often have to talk about the most. Is like, yeah, having these opportunities are great, and I'm super appreciative. It was definitely a blessing, right? But also the next day you still got to get up and continue the work. Like it doesn't stop.
That's a gem, dude. That's a super gem. I think a lot of people are always like, okay, now I made it. You know, I rocked the Super Bowl, right? And you know, you and I have both seen groups fall off after they rock the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? And you still got to get up and grind. So anybody out there that's watching and listening to this interview, please understand that Rudy is dropping gems. Like you got to know that any artist, I don't care if you're a guitar player or a painter or whatever. Right? Even though you win a gold medal, don't you want to go back and defend your gold medal? Right?
Yeah.
You know, that's really kind of what it is, man. So I really appreciate that gem. I know people have always been like, hey, gee, you know, you can quit now. I'm like, no.
Exactly.
I'm not quitting now, right? This is when I'm going to have to grind harder, right?
Definitely. And I think that's what that means. Like once you get these opportunities, that just means that now you have to grind even harder, you know, because it's like, okay, so like what's next? How do I turn these opportunities into more opportunities? How do I give other people opportunities because I've had some opportunities already? You know what I mean? It's like how do we do all of these things? Because that's what community is about, you know? Like somebody helped me out, so now I got to help other people. You know, and I think that's super important. That's how we build community.
That's right, especially within, you know, music and the poetry slam community, right? So within that community, I think there was this brother that was out of San Francisco, and he says, like, what are you doing for hip hop? Are you just going to write a song and help you get paid? Right? But are you going to help the next man up, the next woman up? Like, what are you doing for hip hop in general? You can't just take from hip hop, right? And that's one reason I know Queen Bee really respects you, is that you've been running this thing at her poetry slam for 6 years, right? And all those poets, I see how they treat you, and they come from all over the nation just to be at your poetry slam, man. So that's I mean, let's not lie, that says a lot, you know. And yes, sir. It's a blessing, and you're a blessing to our community. So I definitely want to say thank you so much from Queen Bee and myself, and for the rest of the, you know, being a street poet myself. I definitely appreciate your style, your writing style, your message, and the way that you project that message onto the audience is amazing, and through your words in your books. So thank you from me and the community, man. We really appreciate you.
You know, and thank you. Like if it wasn't for Queen Bees, I don't know if I would be where I am. You know what I mean? It's because also like one of my first performances was at Hot Monkey Love Cafe. you
Oh,
know,
sick.
like
Yeah.
way back in the day, you know.
Right.
And then when I started when we started our poetry collective, we were trying to figure out, okay, like we need to like raise money to like, you know, start our like show, our open
Right.
mic. And you know, we had our first fundraiser show was at Hot Monkey Love Cafe, you know, like
Wow.
yeah, so yeah, like we super appreciate what Alma has done for this community. We appreciate Queen
Right.
Bees. Like
Right.
I said, Alma is like one of the few people that I don't say no to. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's only like four in my life that I don't say no to. You know, it's like
Right.
my mom. You know, like,
Yes. I'll make it
yeah, like
happen. I promise.
definitely. So I'm so appreciative of the space that Alma has provided, not
Right.
only for poetry but also for, you know, dance, for hip hop,
Yes,
for
sir.
all different kinds of art. You know, I think Queen Bees is I think in a lot of ways it's the artistic heart of San Diego, you know. So
Oh,
I
I
mean,
couldn't agree
whatever.
with you more, man. You're so right.
Yeah. Because anytime you tell somebody, oh, like I'm doing something at Queen Bees, it's not like, oh, what's Queen Bees? It's always
Right.
like, oh, yeah, I know where that is,
That's
or
right.
oh, I've been there before, you know.
Yep.
So
Yep. I'm
so yeah,
gonna be there. They always say I'm coming. You know. And
yeah,
the thing is, you
definitely.
guys don't charge $1 million. You know, it might be $5, $10. Like it's not $1 million to walk on the door at Queen Bees, and then it's not all stuffy, and everybody isn't too cool to be there. You know. The
Yeah,
vibe and the
definitely.
energy is amazing, and your slams, your poetry collective, dude. I remember you, you and I were doing one a few months ago, and you were like,
Yeah.
dude, I want them to have to stand up because
Uh-huh.
it gets so packed. Those cats need to get there early, man. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
They need to
definitely.
get there early to get a seat because you got it packed in there, dude.
Yeah, and I think, and that's why, you know, we often have a line, you know, because seating is limited, and it's like, yeah, you got to get there early. Like we want to
Right?
create something where it's like you don't decide the day of that you're going.
No,
You know what I mean?
no.
Like we want you to decide like a week out and be like, okay, on this day I'm going to be here.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Bring
a
your
part of the
friends.
culture that we try to create. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
definitely.
And you know, a lot of people that I know that I brought, excuse me, to your poetry thing had never been to anything like that ever. And
Yeah.
their experience coming to that has changed their lives, man. I mean, now they're writing poetry because of you, Rudy. You know,
Oh wow.
and
Wow,
I knew they were. What's that?
that's awesome.
Right, it is awesome, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, you're spreading the love throughout the situation to people that you don't even know, and you don't really realize. You know, as an artist, you're up there spewing what you feel, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And but when it comes out, the rest of the audience is really kind of just freaking out and just like absorbing it all in because you're a captivating performer, you know, and your
Oh,
words
thank
are
you.
captivating. You are, man. And when I watched Queen Bee actually close her eyes and just sit there and appreciate your poetry and your friends' poetries, you know, I thought that was amazing. And it was just watching her and other people watch you and your friends do your thing. The energy was just beautiful, man. You know?
Yeah, we've had so many phenomenal people like come through our doors. Like it's
Right?
because I mean like a lot of poetry scenes, you know, have, you know, various issues with the people that show up and whatnot.
Right.
But like yeah, we've really been placed in like a really awesome position where like people come through the door with like a good spirit, you know,
Yes.
and you know, like people show up and you know, I think we have some of the best poets in the country, you know,
We
right
do.
here in our own city. So yeah, like that's just been awesome to just sit back and watch it all, you know?
Right.
Like
I
it's
bet. Yeah,
it's
'cause
been
you've been the
it's been
forefront
great.
of it, man. I mean, let's not lie. You've been the
Yeah.
forefront of it, which is great.
Mhm.
But hey, man, I just wanted to wrap it up and say
Okay.
thank you so much because we're so appreciative. I know Alma's so appreciative. EnterTalk Media
Oh, yeah.
is so appreciative, and Artesia is going to be giving away this microphone. As a matter of fact.
Oh yeah, that's a
And-
good mic.
Right, super sick. At your
Definitely.
poetry thing next week. So Wednesday, the 29th at 7 p.m. Right?
Yep.
Go to entertalkmedia.com/live-stream. And I'm sure it's going to be on IG and Facebook and all that, but it's going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
better to go to that website because there's going to be ways to donate. So we want to thank Rudy so much for, you know, basically donating his time to such a great
Oh,
cause Save
Anytime.
the music. So of course, thank you, brother. Save the music, save the venues. We really got, really got to save Queen Bees, man. We got to,
We do.
everybody, please tune in next week. Dip into your pockets. Sign up for the contest for the mic. Thank you so much again, Rudy, man. We really appreciate you, my brother. I can't wait to see you next week.
No
man.
problem. Yeah, I'm excited about next week. I'll see you then.
Yes, sir. One love.
All right.